Welcome to this beginner's video on adjustments. In the previous videos we've covered opening and saving and the concept of layers for image editing. Now we're going to look at actually editing our images, and adjustments are a very popular way of doing so. You can use adjustments correctively and creatively. There are no rules or set uses for adjustments, but we'll look at some common examples. So let's take this image that we've recently shot and transferred from the camera. One of the most basic adjustments we can make to an image is to alter its brightness and contrast. We can do this by going to Layer from the top menu, down to New Adjustment Layer, and then here we can add a brightness and contrast adjustment. So straight away we can see a new layer has been added to our layer stack here, and we also have a dialog giving us access to the adjustment settings. We can manipulate these sliders to alter the settings and achieve the effect we're after. So let's bring the brightness down and push the contrast up to make the tones more vivid. So once we're finished with the adjustment settings, we can hide this dialog box. To bring up the settings again at any time, we can double-click the relevant layers icon here. We won't stop there, so let's add another adjustment. Once again, we can go to the Layer menu, New Adjustment Layer, and this time we'll add an HSL adjustment. HSL stands for Hue, Saturation, Lightness, and we can easily increase or decrease the color saturation with this adjustment, as well as shift the color hues. Just to round off our adjustments here, we'll add a final adjustment called Selective Color. Using this adjustment, we can fine-tune the individual color tones in our image. Take, for example, our reds, where we can increase the magenta contribution to deepen those tones. We can then switch across to yellows using the drop-down here. And we can decrease the yellow contribution, which takes some intensity out of the flower head here. So just to step back and look at this, we've built up a non-destructive layer structure here. If you've watched the previous layers video, you'll know that you can hide these layers to disable their effects. This also allows us to refer back to the original image and see the changes we've made by adding these adjustments. Let's look at adding some adjustments to another image. This image here wasn't shot correctly and is quite underexposed. Now we can easily correct this by going to the Layer menu, New Adjustment Layer, and adding an exposure adjustment. From this adjustments setting dialog, we can increase the exposure slider and we'll raise the overall exposure of the image. Okay, let's turn this image black and white. So this is easily done by going to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and here we can add a black and white adjustment. And in the adjustment settings here, we're given control over the contribution of each color to the black and white mix. So we can experiment here to find a tone that suits us. Finally, this image is a little washed out and lacks a certain punch, especially in the darker tones. One very quick way of remedying this is to add a levels adjustment. So once again we can go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and here we have our levels adjustment. So on the settings dialog here, we can increase the black level slider, which will increase the intensity of those darker tones. We can also drag the white level slider across to the left slightly to intensify the lighter tones. Again, don't forget that by double-clicking on an adjustment layers icon, we can bring up the settings for that adjustment at any time and modify them. Okay, so we've taken an introductory look at adjustments and covered some of the more popular uses for them. It's now time to move on to filters and how we can work with them. See the next video titled Filters for more information. Thank you for watching.